Live from Studio L in the heart of Broomfield High School, it's Books That Matter with your host, our librarian, also known as Conan the Librarian, James Schissel.
Hello and welcome to another episode, in fact, probably the last one of the year, of Books That Matter. And we're going to round out this season with none other than Terrence Dunn. Welcome, Terrence.
Thank you, Jen.
Oh, my goodness. You do have a lot of fans out there. That's awesome. So, Terrence, I know you've been here a while.
Yes.
How many years exactly have you been part of the staff at Broomfield High?
I'm wrapping up currently my 22nd year as a teacher here at Broomfield High School. And also I teach social studies, mostly U.S. history classes. And also finished my 16th year as the head boys basketball coach here at Broomfield High School.
Excellent. So you've been here a while, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love talking to people who have been here a while. I'm always interested in, what is one of your best memories from working at Broomfield High?
There's so many great memories, and one of the amazing things about being at Broomfield High School is that those 22 years are people that I've worked with for 22 years. So I would think the best memories are really the relationships that have grown and continue to grow, and people like Greg Garner, who I get to team teach with, have on and off for most of those 2 decades, and people like Steve Marchi, who is teaching here at Broomfield High School and has been here the entire time, and is so ingrained in the Broomfield community, and just so nice to be able to talk to Steve and learn about Broomfield and what it is and what it used to be, and so I think those memories are really based on the relationships and the people that are.
And now for the heart of the show. We get to hear from Terrence about books that matter to him and why they matter to him. And I looked at these titles ahead of time. I'm really excited to hear about your selections, Terrence. Super excited about the publishing date on Uncle Tom's Cabin. And let's go ahead.
Thank you for having me on the show, Jane. And I really, when you invited me, I was really there's so many books that are so good. And it was, to pick just a few books that matter. I mean, we could probably talk for hours about various books, but I picked 3 books. I tried to pick some books that, 2 of the books are books that I think have influenced me and helped shape me and how I think about things. And the first book on my left there, your right, is Edward Abbey's Desert Solitaire, which is a collection of essays that Abbey wrote during various times living in the American Southwest, especially in Utah and the Arches National Park. And I read Abbey a lot in college and just love his irreverence, but also his love of nature. And I really like to spend time outdoors. I like to camp, I like to hike, I like to do other things like that. And so Abbey really spoke to me, especially in college. I think really has helped me to, really spoke to that love of the outdoors and nature.
And the desert, do you like the desert? Area?
I do like the Southwest. I don't get to get down there as much as I'd like, but I do. The canyons to be able to explore the canyons. The fact that you can go from being somewhere or people and it's relatively popular and to somewhere of isolation in a pretty short amount of time is, I think, pretty amazing. And go to places in the desert where it seems like no one's been for maybe hundreds of years, and the artifacts and other things that you can still find in different places in the American Southwest, I think, are pretty amazing. The second book I chose is part of a series of books by a historian named Thomas Cahill. He wrote a book called How the Irish Saved Civilization that was really, really popular. And so he was approached on writing a series of what's called the Hinges of History, is what he called it. And he really tried to look at Western civilization. What are really important moments. This one's called Desire of the Everlasting Hills. And it's really, it's about Jesus and the impact of Jesus on Western society. But also it's about how different of a leader he was. Cahill spends a lot of time talking about really how revolutionary and how radical in some ways Jesus was when you consider that the role model for success and power and manhood at that time was people like Alexander the Great. What a radically different figure he was.
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah,
right.
And really redefining some things. And it's been a book that I reread and really find interesting to, again, think about concepts like leadership, when thinking about, again, what does it mean to be a leader, to be in charge of people, to how you influence people. I think a lot about it in my coaching and things like that, in my teaching and being up in front of classes. It's a book that has also influenced my personal faith and some other things as well.
Yeah, I am actually going to read that one. I was looking through it yesterday, and I'm familiar with the author.
Yeah.
Different books speak to you at different times in your life, and that one's calling you right now.
It's
fantastic.
He's a wonderful author. His ability to, some people might find him a little wordy, but I think it's some beautiful prose writing. I really appreciate his writing.
Great, thanks, Tim. Oh, great.
The third book I brought in is a book that I think is a book that matters, not necessarily just because of its prose or the words that were chosen, but because it had a really huge historical impact. And a U.S. history teacher, I love how books can influence America's past. Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe was a book that was first published in the 1850s. And Harriet Beecher Stowe was a big part of the abolitionist movement. The book was a bestseller in the North and really inspired a lot of Americans to fight against slavery, and that enslaving individuals was a negative thing. In fact, Abraham Lincoln, when he met Harriet Beecher Stowe, made the comment, "So this is the little lady who started this big war." This book in particular is also not just a famous book, but a family heirloom. It's from 1897, and was a Christmas gift to my grandmother's aunt. And my grandmother held on to it for a long time, and then my aunt held on to it after my grandmother's death, and then passed it on to me. So, kind of family heirloom.
Yeah, that's something to cherish, really. Thank you so much for bringing that in with you today and let me hold it. Appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a book that is controversial because it's language, and the words that were acceptable in the 1850s not necessarily okay in 2022. But I think its importance, especially in the abolitionist movement, I think it's really significant.
Yep, absolutely. It's one of those books that's made its way to the banned books list many times.
Yep.
But as you mentioned, it does have a tremendous amount of historical significance. So thank you for bringing it in. Thank you for all of these tenets.
Thank you.
I call You've Been Booked, and normally the guest, in this case Terrence, would choose a name from the blue bucket, and that person would be the next guest on the show. But the reality is we are into May, and we are running out of time very quickly. So I think that, wow, you're like the finale guest. I thought I didn't tell you that at the beginning. There'd be so much pressure.
It would be.
Yeah, thank you for
Maybe.
being on. Now, though, we have to bring our other guest star into the focus here, and that is the Big Book of Bookings. So even though we don't get to draw another name today, I just want to take a moment to thank all the people who have been on the show. They all have their name in the big book. They can come and check it out. And thanks to all the people who have volunteered to be on the show. I really appreciate you, appreciate that. And thanks for making this possible. So thank you, Terrence.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you everyone out there. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. We're doing awesome.